Hello and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and joining me today is my wonderful co-host, Julia. How are you doing today, Julia?
Hi, Jason. I'm doing great, and I'm super excited about today's topic because it's something every English learner struggles with at some point: pronunciation.
That's right. Today, we're talking about the fastest way to improve your English pronunciation. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, pronunciation can be challenging. Sometimes, even small mistakes can change the meaning of a word completely.
Exactly. And the good news is, improving your pronunciation doesn't have to take years. There are specific techniques that can help you sound more natural and confident in English, fast.
So, if you've ever felt nervous about speaking English because you're afraid of mispronouncing words, stay with us. By the end of this episode, you'll have some powerful tools to improve your pronunciation quickly.
And don't worry, we'll keep things simple and practical. We'll talk about common mistakes, give you easy exercises, and share resources that will help you master English pronunciation.
Sounds great. So, let's get started. First, let's talk about why pronunciation is so important and how it can change the way people understand you. All right, so before we jump into the fastest ways to improve pronunciation, let's first talk about why pronunciation is so important in English communication.
Yes. A lot of learners focus on grammar and vocabulary, which are important, but pronunciation plays a huge role in how well others understand you.
Exactly. You could have perfect grammar and know thousands of words, but if your pronunciation is unclear, people might still struggle to understand you.
Right. And sometimes even small pronunciation mistakes can completely change the meaning of a word. For example, let's take the words beach and BH. If you don't pronounce the long E sound correctly, you might end up saying something very different.
That's a great example. Another common one is 30 and 13. If you don't stress the right syllable, people might get confused about which number you mean.
Exactly. And pronunciation isn't just about individual words. It's also about rhythm, stress, and intonation. If you use the wrong stress in a sentence, the meaning might sound unnatural or even confusing to a native speaker.
That's so true. A good example is the question, "What do you want?" If you say it with a flat tone, it sounds neutral. But if you stress you, like "What do you want?" it can sound rude or aggressive.
Yes. So pronunciation isn't just about saying words correctly, it's also about how you say them. Good pronunciation makes you sound more natural and confident.
And it also improves your listening skills. When you practice pronunciation, you become more aware of the way native speakers speak, which helps you understand conversations better.
Absolutely. So now that we understand why pronunciation is so important, let's talk about some of the most common pronunciation mistakes that English learners make.
Now that we know how important pronunciation is, let's talk about some of the most common pronunciation mistakes that English learners make.
Yes, no matter what your native language is, there are some tricky English sounds that many learners struggle with. Let's start with one of the biggest ones, the TH sound.
Oh yes, the sounds theta and eth, like in think and this, are really difficult for many learners because they don't exist in some languages.
Exactly. Instead of think, some learners say tink or sink, and instead of this, they say dis or zis.
So, if you struggle with eth, here's a quick tip. Place your tongue between your teeth, not behind them, and gently blow air out. The hink this, that. Try practicing slowly.
That's a great tip. Another common mistake is confusing long and short vowel sounds. For example, words like ship and sheep. Many learners pronounce them the same, but ship has a short I sound, while sheep has a long I sound.
Yes! And that's an important one because if you say, I want a sheet of paper, but pronounce sheet incorrectly, well, it might sound like a bad word.
Exactly. Another mistake is not pronouncing word endings clearly. Some learners drop the last sound, especially with words that end in S or ed. For example, instead of saying I liked it, they say I like it.
Right. And that can cause confusion because like and liked have different meanings. The same happens with plurals. If you don't pronounce the S in cats, people might think you're talking about just one cat instead of many.
Yes, another big challenge is word stress. English has strong and weak syllables, and if you stress the wrong part of a word, it can sound strange. For example, the word record, if you say R-E-cord, it's a noun, like a music record. But if you say record, it's a verb, meaning to save information.
That's a great example. Another one is present. If you say present, it's a noun, like a gift. But if you say present, it's a verb, meaning to give something.
So, word stress is super important for making your speech sound natural. All right, now that we've covered some common mistakes, let's move on to the part everyone's been waiting for: the fastest ways to improve pronunciation.
All right. Now, let's get into the most exciting part, the fastest ways to improve your English pronunciation. If you want to sound more natural quickly, these techniques will help.
Yes, and the best part is you don't need a teacher or a language partner for most of these. You can practice by yourself.
That's right. So, let's start with one of the most effective methods, shadowing.
Shadowing is amazing. It's when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say, immediately trying to copy their pronunciation, rhythm, and tone.
Exactly. It's like being a parrot. You don't stop to think. You just listen and repeat. This helps your mouth get used to the natural sounds of English.